sheriff's and Mr. Robinson's request to limit or exclude visual recording and photography in the courtroom. And finally, the fourth matter, the state's request to have all non-evidentiary hearings held remotely.
The question no mother ever wants to hear came from Erika Kirk's little girl, a simple, heartbreaking whisper. "Mom, where's Dad?" And in that moment, Erika realized she was about to shatter her children's world, because the man they loved, Charlie Kirk, was gone, and there was no way to soften that truth. But what she didn't know then was that her grief would turn into something bigger, a fight she never expected to take on. Because now, as this case moves closer to trial, the battle isn't just about evidence or testimonies. It's about visibility. The defense wants the courtroom sealed, no cameras, no public eyes. But Erika, she's demanding the opposite. Her appearance on Fox News lit up the nation when she said, "We deserve cameras in court." And trust me, what she revealed after that statement could shift the entire conversation about justice, transparency, and who really gets to see the truth. Before we go deeper, make sure you hit like and subscribe to EWU Crime, where we bring you the stories others avoid and the truths that never stay buried. That morning, the courthouse steps felt different. Not just busy, heavy. Camera crews formed a wall along the street. Supporters huddled together, holding candles, posters, and worn-out photos of Charlie Kirk. And behind those doors, long before a jury would ever be seated, a battle was already underway. It wasn't about evidence. It wasn't about guilt or innocence. It was about access. This wasn't the trial. Not yet. It was only a PI trial hearing, the kind that usually passes quietly. But there was nothing quiet about this one. Inside, tension filled the room. Every sentence from the attorneys felt loaded. Every objection seemed to echo louder than it should. The defense pushed hard. No cameras, no recording, no public eyes. They warned of chaos, a media circus. They claimed transparency would put witnesses at risk, that it could damage the entire case. But to a lot of people watching, especially Erika Kirk, it sounded like something much simpler. An attempt to shut the public out, to limit what can be seen, to keep the truth in the shadows. Erika wasn't sitting in that courtroom when the arguments were made. She was at home, trying to keep life steady for her children, shielding them from the noise, the headlines, and the endless analysis of their father's death. But she followed every update, every filing, every quote. And when she learned that the defense was pushing to block cameras from the courtroom, it hit her harder than she expected. It felt like another door closing, another layer of secrecy in a case already filled with pain. A few days later, she sat down for an interview with Fox News. Her voice wasn't raised. She didn't attack anyone. She simply spoke from a place most people hope they never have to visit. "We deserve cameras in court," she said softly. "If the world watched us lose him, they should be able to watch the process that decides justice." There was no script, no agenda, just raw honesty from a grieving wife and mother. The entire segment ran under 10 minutes, but those words spread fast, igniting conversations across social media and beyond. Clips of her interview began circulating everywhere. Her voice, steady but clearly weighed down by grief, echoed across timelines and feeds. Some people praised her courage. Others accused her of stirring the pot. But everyone felt the impact of what she said.
The court held a closed hearing on October 24th, 2025. During that hearing, the parties addressed several related matters. The first, Mr. Robinson's motion to strike the sheriff's response. The second, Mr. Robinson's motion to appear in civilian clothing and without physical restraints. The third, the sheriff's and Mr. Robinson's request to limit or exclude visual recording and photography in the courtroom. And finally, the fourth matter, the state's request to have all non-evidentiary hearings held remotely. The parties have stipulated that the state's request to hold non-evidentiary hearings virtually, as well as the parties' joint request to limit electronic media coverage, both require further briefing. Those issues are not yet ready for the court's decision. To facilitate that briefing, the court directs as follows. If the state wishes to have all non-evidentiary hearings conducted via WebEx, it must file a separate motion. The court will not rely on prior briefing. The standard timelines for response and reply apply, and the parties must file a request to submit and request a hearing if desired. If the parties seek to limit or restrict electronic media coverage, they may file a joint motion. Again, The court will not rely on prior briefing. That motion must address the factors set forth in Rule 4-401.01 sub 2 of the Utah Rules of Judicial Administration.
For Erika, none of this was about attention. It wasn't about spotlight, or pressure, or public sympathy. It was about clarity. She'd seen firsthand how fast misinformation grows, how a real family's tragedy can be reshaped into theories, guesses, and accusations by people who were never there. She didn't want the truth filtered through headlines or speculation. She wanted it visible. She wanted the process to unfold where everyone could witness it, not in shadows, not behind closed doors. If justice is truly justice, she said, why keep it hidden? That question landed harder than any headline could, because at that point, it wasn't only about Charlie Kirk's death. It became a bigger issue about confidence in the system, about transparency, and about whether justice should ever be hidden from the people it serves.
I want to show you a video of Charlie talking about TPUSA.
Okay.
Well, you're about to embark on something that is much bigger than yourself. So check your ego at the door.
Oh, he looks so good.
We're building.
Sorry, guys. Just give me a second. It's the longest video I've watched of him. Just give me a second.
Charlie was on a mission to save Western civilization.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that's what you signed up for?
You know, well, no, I didn't sign up for anything. I just married the love of my life.
Hard to watch. Erika Kirk speaking out on the assassination of her husband, Charlie Kirk. Here's what she exclusively told Jesse Waters on why she refuses to live in fear.
Do you feel safe?
What are they going to threaten me with? Going to heaven sooner to be with my husband? And I don't say that to be reckless. I do not. I do not say that because I'm out in the streets like, here I am, come find me. And it's not at all. It's a fearlessness that's rooted in the understanding that I will have my day and my time, whenever that is. When the Lord knows that I've completed my mission. And I'm not afraid. Charlie wasn't afraid either. We never lived in fear. If we did, we wouldn't get anything done.
The prosecutor's office offered no response to Erika's words. The defense brushed it off, calling her plea nothing more than an emotional reaction. But outside the legal filings and press releases, something unexpected started happening. Across the country, people began asking the same thing. If the tragedy was public, if the pain was public, if the speculation was public, then why shouldn't the process be public too? Why shouldn't the courtroom, the place where the truth is supposed to be revealed, be open for everyone to see just a few weeks before all of this?
You know, Harris, she has so much wisdom. Every time she answers a question, she turns it back to faith. It's so clear, her compass and what guides her, much the same as her husband's, Charlie's.
Yeah, you know, these are different times than the late 50s. But there were people then. MLK Jr. is one that I'm thinking of as probably the most who did this, who truly believed that it was spirituality at the center of everything. And that's where the hope and the progress could come from. And I see her as unbending in this moment because something else holds her up. It's not the fans, it's not the people, it's none of that. It is the Lord. He's got her. And it is amazing to be reminded of the power of that and the grace that it inspires within a human being. It keeps us all going. It is spiritual food. Every time I hear her speak, I pray for her that she continues to have the strength to do it.
Erika had lived through the moment she still calls the hardest of her life. The night she sat her children down. The night the house felt too quiet. The night the truth couldn't be delayed any longer. She remembers every detail. The hum of the refrigerator, the soft tick of the clock on the wall, the way the room felt like it was holding its breath. And then came the question no parent is ever ready to answer. Mom, where's Dad? It broke her. She did her best to explain the unexplainable, that their father wasn't coming back, that sometimes the world is unfair in ways no child should have to learn, and that no matter what people said online or in the news, one thing would never be in question. Their dad loved them deeply, fiercely, without condition. When the kids finally fell asleep, Erika stayed awake in the dark, staring into the quiet house, and in that silence, she whispered to herself, this can't be where the story stops. To the world, Charlie Kirk was a public figure, a loud voice, a leader, a man constantly in the spotlight. But to Erika, he was something far more personal. He was her partner, her best friend, the steady presence that held their family together. He poured his energy into Turning Point USA, driven by what he called a mission to protect the future of this country. But the moment he walked through the front door, all of that fell away. At home, he wasn't a commentator. He wasn't a political figure. He was simply Dad, the dad who knelt beside the bed for nighttime prayers, the dad who made up stories until the kids finally fell asleep, the dad whose voice filled the house with warmth.
Here's Erika Kirk talking about what she tells her 2 small children, including her 3-year-old, about where Daddy is.
You told your children that Charlie was going on a work trip with Jesus. Are they still asking, where's Daddy?
Yes, my daughter continues to ask, but it's really sweet because I keep explaining to her a few things. And I said, if ever you want to talk to Daddy, you just look up to the sky and start talking to him. He can hear you. He's always in your heart. And I told her, I said, you know, Daddy is in heaven. She goes, you think I could go sometime? I said, baby, we will all go one day. We will all go one day.
Now, every morning, their daughter still asked the question she couldn't understand. MOM, where's Dad? And Erika would give her a gentle smile, the same fragile, determined smile she showed on camera, and say, Daddy went on a special trip with Jesus. She repeated it softly, hoping one day it would make sense. Some mornings, her daughter would tilt her head toward the sky and whisper, Hi, Daddy. And in the quiet of those moments, Erika whispered back. A few weeks before the courtroom battle even began, Erika sat across from Jesse Waters, her first time speaking publicly since the assassination. When that interview aired, viewers didn't see a political figure or a public personality. They saw a mother trying to hold herself together. Jesse asked the question everyone had wondered. How do you explain something like this to children? Erika paused. Her eyes softened, filling with tears. She tried to blink away. My daughter still asks, she said quietly. I told her, if you want to talk to Daddy, just look up. Tell him whatever you want. He can hear you. Dad is in heaven. And then Erika said, her daughter asked her something that shattered her. Mommy, do you think I can go there someday? Erika's voice cracked as she remembered her answer. I told her, one day, sweet girl, one day we'll all go. For a moment, the studio wasn't a studio. It was a room full of people holding their breath. Even the anchors, usually sharp, controlled, unshakable, went quiet. Because behind the headlines and the noise and the arguments was a grieving family trying to survive the unthinkable. Broken, hurting, but refusing to fall apart. For months, Erika carried all of that weight where no one could see it. In public, she appeared steady, composed, grounded, her faith anchoring her through every question, every headline. But behind closed doors, she admitted to friends that the quiet moments were the hardest. At night, after the kids were finally asleep, she would scroll through old videos, clips of Charlie laughing, speaking to crowds, pouring his heart into the work he believed in. One video always stopped her cold. Charlie was sitting in the same restaurant where they'd first met. He looked into the camera with a smile that still felt alive, and said to their daughter, This is where Dad met MOM. It was supposed to be a job interview, but she was so smart, so beautiful, so full of Christ. I forgot about the interview and asked her on a date. Erika would watch the clip over and over, as if replaying his voice could hold together the pieces of a life that had been taken far too soon.
Here is a flashback or soundbite, I should say, of something that Erika posted. It's Charlie at the restaurant where he met Erika and telling his little daughter about how he fell in love with Erika on the spot at that restaurant. Watch this.
Right near this very table was the first time Dada met Mama. And it started as a job interview. And I was asking all these questions, philosophy, religion, Jesus. And then I realized Mama was beautiful and smart and elegant and Christ-like. And so I said, forget this job interview. I want to date you. And I said, I have enough friends. And that's where your journey started.
Yeah, I mean, Kaylee, that's so hard. You know, I have a 6-year-old who's asking questions about life and death, and I can't imagine a 3-year-old having to explain that concept to, and she just wants to go to heaven to see Daddy.
Yeah, as a new mom myself, it's really hard to even wrap my head around how she's navigating this situation and how she's navigating this situation knowing that her small children are going to grow up knowing about their father and how he was killed, and God forbid seeing the actual footage of it. It's so much to process. It's so much that she has to bear at this very young point in her life. But I think her kids also get to grow up seeing their mom step into their father's role and carry his mission and his legacy, and most importantly, his faith forward. And she's so strong to be able to do that. And so, you know, I commend her for being an amazing example for her children, but also for other young moms in the country like myself.
Yeah, and Emily, I want to play this because not only is she having to lead Turning Point USA, talk to her children about these big, heavy issues, but she's also having to watch a court case play out. And here's what she told Jesse on cameras in the courtroom.
The defense wants to ban cameras in the courtroom. How do you feel about that?
There were cameras all over my husband when he was murdered. There have been cameras all over my friends and family mourning. There have been cameras all over me, analyzing my every move, analyzing my every smile, my every tear. We deserve to have cameras in there. Why not be transparent? There's nothing to hide. I know there's not, because I've seen what the case is built on. Let everyone see what true evil is. This is something that could impact a generation and generations to come.
When the legal process began moving forward, the courtroom quickly became Erika's next battlefield. This time, she wasn't fighting grief, she was fighting for visibility. The defense insisted that cameras would contaminate the jury pool. They claimed the public had no need to witness the proceedings. They argued that privacy, not transparency, should take priority. But Erika stood firm. There's nothing to hide, she told reporters. She said she'd seen the evidence, she knew the details, and she wasn't afraid of the truth being shown. Let the public see it. Let them see exactly what happened. Let them see evil for what it truly is. There was nothing political in her voice, nothing rehearsed. Her words felt less like an argument and more like a warning, a line drawn in the sand. When Erika sat before a national audience, she carried that same steady resolve. She wasn't trying to sway a jury or influence a verdict. Her goal was simpler and heavier. She wanted the truth to be visible. When we were grieving, the cameras were everywhere, she told Fox. But now that it's time for accountability, suddenly cameras are a problem? That isn't fairness. That isn't transparency. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't lash out. Her tone was calm but unshakably firm. It was the voice of a mother insisting on the one thing the system rarely offers: consistency. In a world full of shifting narratives and hidden corners, she was asking for something unmistakably clear. In the official court documents, the defense didn't back down. They pushed even harder, arguing that cameras might endanger witnesses or fuel public outrage. Strong words, but not everyone was convinced. Legal analysts were quick to point something out. Utah courts have allowed cameras before in major cases, as long as strict rules were followed. So the question wasn't whether cameras could be permitted, it was why they suddenly shouldn't.
I echo the fact that every time she speaks, I am so impressed by her wisdom and her gravitas and her ability to frame something that is so horrifying and feeling so complicated as simple and fundamental and clear to those of us. And it's evil versus good. And it also nails the legal arguments, which is the public interest in ensuring that there is a fair trial and ensuring that the historical record is indeed accurate. And may I say, too, that her original comments that we played in the beginning reminds me of, I think it was C.S. Lewis who said that worry is practicing atheism. And the reality is that she is carrying and embodies the peace that surpasses all understanding, where you know exactly where you are going. You are going home every day, whether it's home to your children or home to your Heavenly Father. And to see that and to serve as a witness, frankly, for her just preternatural grace and that peace is I'm honored and humbled by it. And I have no doubt that she will continue to be an incredible force for good in the name of her late husband and, most importantly, Jesus.
David, I think this interview is so important. I was reading some Politico polling this morning that showed a significant minority, as they note, 24% of the population thinks violence is sometimes justified. I think it's important people look at Erika Kirk and the families and friends affected by violence.
I mean, you've all provided such great aspects of this. There's a part where she says people have to see evil for what it is, and that's important. You talked about MLK Jr. earlier. Another strong woman, Rosa Parks, Mrs. Parks, centered. And when you think about the history of this country and strong women, whether it was suffragettes, a Rosa Parks, others that have stood up in positions and led. She's one of them, but she has something else. She has an organization that she and Charlie and Andrew and the entire team built that was meant to be there no matter what happened. Unfortunately and tragically, an assassination, but it was meant to survive based on a simple truth that we as a society need to have values. We need to have a center. We need to work together. We need to engage in conversation. That carries you much further. And she's able to work with that, to come home with that in her as a part of her.
Indeed.
Can I ask you something? What about this idea of cameras? I know you were talking about legally this does serve, the purpose of the public to be able to see it up close. How do you feel about it?
Without question, I'm in total agreement with Emily. It's important for people to see evil. There's a spiritual battle playing out in this country, evil and good. And Charlie Kirk said it's playing out whether you choose to acknowledge it or not. So I believe, and of course it's an alleged assassin at this point, but the evidence is pretty clear. I've been through that. The DNA evidence, his parents turned him in, the text messages. I think it's important America sees that evidence, is crystal clear on what happened that day, and sees evil at a time when evil and good are playing out. And Charlie Kirk embodied all things good. And
the potential for consequences for anybody else in this assassination culture with when we're living would be able to see that.
Totally, yes. All
To
right, well,
Erika, that contradiction hit hard. Millions of people had already witnessed her family's pain. They'd seen the heartbreak, the tributes, the raw emotion of losing Charlie. So why, now, at the moment when the truth should be laid bare, should everything be pushed into silence? For her, justice shouldn't hide. Not after everything the world had already seen. Online, the reaction exploded almost instantly. Within hours of Erika's interview airing, social media was flooded with support. New hashtags began climbing the charts. Hashtag justice in the open. Hashtag show the court. Hashtag no more hiding. One comment read, they recorded her heartbreak. They can record the truth too. Another said, if justice is real, let us see it happen. Erika almost never engages publicly. She avoids the noise, the arguments, the chaos. But this time, she quietly tapped like on one post. It said, we saw your loss. We'll stand with you while you fight for the truth. Inside the courthouse, the machinery of the trial kept moving. Folders stacked, witness lists drafted, attorneys shuffling between offices as the pressure built. The judge still hadn't made a decision about cameras. The ruling could come any day, and both sides were sharpening their arguments for the hearing that would settle it. For the Kirk family, it felt like time was ticking down. Every hour brought them closer to clarity, or to another wall being put up between the public and the truth. Hope and dread sat side by side. Would justice finally be something the world could witness, or would it slip back into the quiet of a closed courtroom? Later that week, Erika sat down for another interview, this time speaking with even more clarity and conviction. This isn't only about Charlie, she said. It's about every family that's ever sat in a courtroom, not knowing what's happening behind those doors. Cameras don't damage justice. They remind justice that the world is watching. Her message echoed what countless victims' families have argued for years. That openness doesn't weaken the system, it keeps it honest. Because accountability doesn't grow in the shadows. It only survives in the light. At home, Erika tried to keep life steady. Breakfast on the table, shoes tied, school drop-offs that felt both familiar and heartbreaking. Small moments of laughter slipping through mornings that otherwise felt unbearably heavy. But each time she glanced at a headline, each time she saw another update about the case, the same ache returned, a reminder that the world kept moving, even while hers had frozen in place. In the kitchen, she kept one photo of Charlie by the coffee maker. That was his spot every morning, teasing her that his coffee tasted better, no matter what she tried. Now, whenever her eyes land on that picture, she feels the reason behind everything she's fighting for. Not just a verdict, not just a courtroom ruling, but something far deeper. The truth. When she first said, we deserve cameras in court, she never imagined it would ignite something bigger than her own pain. But now, her words had spread far beyond that moment. Legal analysts were repeating them. Journalists were writing entire segments around them. Advocacy groups were holding them up like a banner. They called her a force of clarity, a woman who refused to let a quiet courtroom bury the truth. One Fox reporter even remarked, she spoke like someone who'd already lost the world, yet somehow still held on to the one thing worth defending. Meanwhile, the defense filed yet another motion, once again pushing to keep cameras out of the courtroom. They claimed the case was too charged, too sensitive, too explosive for public eyes. But something had changed. Public sentiment was no longer tilted their way. Even people who never agreed with Charlie Kirk, people who clashed with his politics, now found themselves standing with Erika on one simple point. The truth should be seen, not hidden. Because at its core, this fight wasn't about left or right. It was about credibility. And credibility, once cracked, is almost impossible to piece back together. In the days before the next hearing, Erika sat down quietly with supporters and families who had walked this same road. Some were mothers, some were widows. All of them knew the weight of being drowned out by systems that felt untouchable. They told her she was brave. She gently pushed back. To her, this wasn't courage, it was survival. If we don't insist on seeing justice happen, she whispered, how can we ever trust that it's real? The next court date was finally on the calendar. Reporters were already planning to stake out the steps again. Attorneys were preparing their arguments, their statements, their strategies. And everywhere online, people waited to learn whether the public would be allowed to see what unfolds in that courtroom. Erika said she intends to be there this time. Not to talk, not to be interviewed, not to create another headline, but simply to witness. Because sometimes just showing up is its own form of resistance. This story is far from finished. The trial hasn't started, and the biggest question still hangs in the air. Will the country be allowed to witness what happens inside that courtroom? Erika Kirk says yes, absolutely. She believes the same cameras that recorded her heartbreak should now record the truth, and maybe she's right. Because justice doesn't hide in shadows. Justice belongs in the open. If you stand for transparency, tap like. Subscribe to EWU Crime so you never miss a single update as this case unfolds. Turn on notifications the moment that gavel drops. You want to know. And tell us in the comments, should the public be allowed to see this trial? Or should it all happen behind closed doors? Because one thing is certain, this case is about to redefine what open court really means in America.